and it is because of a very small indicated rotation that is not too far away from the Porter Heights area of Montgomery County. And so, again, the way that this expands out is out of an abundance of caution. It doesn't mean that all of these areas like Huffman and Atascocita, it doesn't mean all these places are at risk of a tornado hitting them, but it does mean that in this area here around Porter Heights, right over this West Fork of the San Jacinto River, that's where we have this radar indicated tornado. Once again, just like the previous warnings we've been telling you about for the last half hour, this is all radar indicated. So it doesn't mean that anybody has seen a tornado. There's been nothing confirmed, but from the tools we have via Doppler radar, it is showing signs of rotation enough that we want to make sure that everybody is warned about it. So we are talking about an area north of Kingwood right now. By the way, if you're joining us from Kingwood or Humble, even though you're not within this this polygon indicating the risk for the tornado, it doesn't mean that your weather is going to be that great either. We do have some heavy rain and high winds moving into that whole Highway 69 or East Tex Freeway corridor. This is the velocity product. Once again, this is not indicating a super strong indication of rotation, but there is a little bit of a sign there. Mostly what we're seeing is an indication of some strong winds blowing in here from the northwest, and where it meets up with a southeast breeze, there is an indication of a little bit of a rotation there, again, near Porter Heights. At the same time, we don't have a tornado warning issued for this one. It's a severe thunderstorm warning, but equally, it is also showing some signs of some high winds and even a potential rotation not too far away from the Aldine area. So due to some of the limitations here, the radar is down here. The green just indicates all the areas where the rain has what's called a component moving toward the radar. So it may be moving this way, but a little bit down toward the south, whereas the raindrops ahead of it are moving from south to north. I got into the weeds there for a minute. Bottom line is what we're looking at here is between 45 and 59, a slight chance of a rotation. Even though this isn't a tornado warning right now, it's a severe thunderstorm warning that's letting you know of a possible tornado. A little bit unusual, but it's just to let you know here between I-45, this is around like Tidwell and Parker, and then up here to the Sam Houston Tollway, and about halfway up to FM 1960. This is where we have some high winds. So if you're watching us from North Houston, even from like around the Greens Point area, it is rough and tough there. I mean, I'm talking about high winds, maybe 50 to 60 miles per hour briefly. And even in areas like down here, downtown Houston, and I'm surprised we aren't hearing more noise here at the station, in fact, because this is rolling right over our area currently. Heading down to the Med Center, and then all the way down to Sugar Land and Missouri City. These are all areas that, although we're not under any severe warnings right now, it also is a bit hazardous because of some high winds moving into the area. And this thing is moving very quickly from west to east at about between 40 and 50 miles per hour. There we go, brand new. I was just showing that to you, okay? Remember, I was just telling you about this area right here that I thought was showing a little bit of a rotation as well. Well, now the National Weather Service, agrees with me, which is good, and is now indicating this area here that I was just pointing out to you between I-45 and 69 as being the source of a bit of rotation. So this is a brand new warning that was just issued, and let me get the details on that one. So this is a tornado warning, once again, radar indicated tornado. And this is in effect from central Harris County up to all the way to southwestern Liberty County, mostly Harris County at this point. This is in effect until 9 a.m. And this was that area I was sharing with you, a tornado that was located over at East Little York, near Aldine. This is moving east at 30 miles per hour. And it is a radar indicated rotation. And so this is a cautionary tornado warning. This isn't that a tornado has been spotted on the ground, but that's one of the more impressive signatures, if you will, that we've seen this morning. Right over 69 or 59 East Tex Freeway. This is around East Mount Houston and Highway 59 or 69. This is north of Homestead Road and making its way toward the Dyersdale area. So if you live over here on the northeast side of Houston, so northeast Houston, northeast Harris County, this is one of the areas that we're going to be watching. Okay, we do have some TransStar cameras here that we want to share with you. So right now we are checking out this this area actually that we were just pointing out. So this is I-69 at East Mount Houston. it's difficult, obviously, to see exactly, or I guess to see what it feels like, to imagine what it feels like out there on the roadways. This one maybe gives us a little bit more of an impression, right? 69, the East Tex Freeway at Hopper, where I think you can get a sense that the camera is being battered about by some of the high winds. The rain obviously is coming down in buckets. That driver doesn't have his headlights on. Wish he did. But this is, again, an area that's a very frequently traveled, road this time of the day, with folks making their way into work from the Kingwood area, from the Humble area. And if you can stay put for now, that's definitely what we would recommend. These things have been popping up really quickly and then dissipating quickly, which is why we've had so many of these warnings, pop up and then go away and then pop up and go away. And I'll say, this seems to be kind of repeating the same process, where as we get new radar sweeps coming in, it doesn't look as much of a tornado as it does just high winds at this point. But nevertheless, a tornado warning is in effect because of a potential tornado. So there's a lot going on here. Porter Heights area, back over even to around Huffman. Okay, this is one area that we need to keep an eye on through 9:30. Don't want to ignore you up here. It looks like there's a bit of a rotation here off to the east of Porter Heights, and that's going to be crossing. This is in Montgomery County now. New Caney, Splendora area, you'll want to be aware of that too. And then heading over here into northeast Harris County, north of Lake Houston, around the Huffman area, you may be in the path of this, north of that as well. So not a real well-defined circulation, but definitely a potential for some high winds at a minimum, accompanied by some heavy rain and very frequent lightning up here crossing. So boy, the hot spot right now is 59 East Tex Freeway, or 69, really from Montgomery County all the way into downtown Houston. Those are the areas that are getting hardest hit right now. Areas south of Houston, definitely not a picnic right now, but we don't have those advisories that are quite in effect, although it wouldn't surprise me if we did have some issued. This is an area that's likely seeing slightly below severe criteria winds, moving right toward Manville, Iowa Colony, not too far away from Pearland as well, Missouri City, all getting slammed right now. I think we have a couple more views here of Houston TransStar, and yikes. So this is Grand Parkway at Valley Ranch Parkway. I have to admit, is this is north side of
Right, that's right there in the New Caney area?
Yeah, so that's what I was just thinking, wow. And oh my goodness, I mean that's
dramatic.
Yeah, this is really the area that we were just looking at, where that rotation, so this is off, this is the one that was issued for Porter Heights. Yikes. I mean, it's hard to tell, obviously the camera is moving a lot, so it's really hard to get a sense, but there are people out there. You could see the water is really pooling up on the roadway. Nobody's pulling over. So, I guess that's good, but you could definitely get a sense that water is being pushed along that roadway with a pretty high velocity there, really high wind speeds in this area.
The rain is just coming down in sheets in that area.
Coming down in sheets, yeah.
Good visual of straight line winds too, Mike. You can actually see the winds pushing the rain, along,
yeah.
like literally in a line visibly on that.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, a lot of times you hear tornado warning, and sometimes, as I pointed out a few minutes ago, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's a weak tornado or just really strong straight line winds. They could both cause damage. So here, Grand Parkway at 69, I think it hasn't made it there yet, is the deal. The bad weather hasn't quite made it to 99 and Interstate 69 just yet, but it's about to move in. I mean, you could see some of those high winds in that area right now. In fact, it looks like it's really starting to pick up there. So this is why we just want to urge you to stay home. It's not that everybody's going to get hit by a tornado or everybody's going to get hit by hazardous winds, but, probably just best to not be out there, right, if you can at all avoid it. We do have a crew, though, that was already out there, and so they're out on 290. So this is an area where, so there you see Fairbanks, North Houston there. So those of you who are, oh gosh, look, we almost got cut off there. Did you see that? Goodness. This is an area where the heavy rain is already, the severe weather is already passed. So, and can you, would you mind moving the radar, Lena Maria, out there to that part? If those of you who live in this Jersey Village, Cypress area, the tornado threat and all that stuff has passed, but it is still raining heavily, and the high winds, and just the whole 9 yards out there on the northwest side of Harris County. I don't know, maybe we could take a look at the radar here real quick, guys, too, just to give folks an idea of what the radar is indicating here in the area. There we go. So they're out there near that Cypress area, between Jersey Village and Cypress. No warning in effect, but it's really not an area that you'd want to be out there driving if you could help it.
Really heavy rain just passed through all those reds, oranges, yellows, just on the edge of the severe thunderstorm warning. So
Probably a pretty, 3 inches of rain, I would think.
yeah.
Fell. So, as we continue our team weather coverage of that. So that's definitely one spot that we're watching for you, among others. And I don't know, let's go ahead and go back to that driving shot, or maybe one of the TransStars, because sometimes, a picture is worth 1,000 words, sometimes even, more so than what we see on the radar. There are a lot of people out there on the roadways. The wind's probably not as bad in this part, which is along 290. They were about 30 minutes ago, but right now it looks like the threat is really just that continued rain, lots of lightning, and the roads are slippery and people are getting a little nervous out there. We had somebody almost cut off our news crew there, a minute ago. So, maybe just stay put. Now, here's the good thing, everybody. This thing is going to be out of here before you know it. Give it another hour, hour and a half, and you're going to be amazed at how much nicer the weather is going to get. And by 11:30 this morning, maybe noontime, it's going to be amazing out there across the area with just beautiful conditions. But we got to let the system pass. So, just to go back to the radar, kind of summarize what's happening here for you. Maybe you're just tuning in, just joining us and thinking, what's all the hubbub about? Well, we have a squall line, a line of thunderstorms passing through. Most of it is not severe. Some parts, though, have turned severe. We're mainly talking about this area here, north of downtown Houston, right along the 610 North Loop and heading into northeast Houston. We have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect, and we also have a couple of spots where there is a possible tornado. One that's up here, which is in that New Caney area and moving over toward around Huffman. Not a real strong indication of rotation there, but definitely high winds and very heavy rain. And then this one is a whopper that is moving toward Crosby and toward Barrett and toward Sheldon and areas to the north of Cloverleaf and Channelview. North of that area, that's where we have some of the worst of the weather that is coming down right now. So we have several advisories. The severe thunderstorm warning that stretches from Jersey Village to Cloverleaf and the north side of Houston, that one is set to expire, I think, at 9:15. So that one's going to expire in about 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. And then we have advisories that are in effect up here in Montgomery County. I believe that one is set to expire in about another 20, 25 minutes or so. And then this is the one that's going to be a little longer lasting for the one that's moving toward Barrett and Crosby and Sheldon and the east side of Harris County, Highlands. Okay, watch out, because this one is likely to produce some high winds for you. So what's going to happen with high winds? Well, you can get some trees knocked down. You might get the power knocked out. This is a look at the velocity product, and this is taking us, this is up, so this is in that New Caney area where you can see, the bright greens. That's an area where we have some high winds indicated. And then down here farther to the south, again, these bright greens, we're not seeing a strong indication of a tornado. I'm not. But what we do have are some high winds coming in here from this direction, from the northwest. And as that meets up with the south wind that precedes it, you can get sometimes a real surprise, really short-lived. Sometimes they'll even call it like a gust-nado. Lena Maria is joining us over here in the Weather Center too. These things form so fast, and it's almost as soon as they can get the warning out,
right,
the rotation is probably already over with.
Yeah, I mean, and again, not only that, the straight line damaging winds, because these are moving so quickly, you get those wind gusts mixing down from the thunderstorms.
Yeah.
And as we saw on the TransStar camera, I mean, it can make for some really hazardous driving conditions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have their Halloween decorations out, right, on their lawn. That stuff's going to get blown around.
Or at least they did, yeah.
Doesn't take a whole lot. 20, 30 mile an hour wind gusts knocking over your trash can.
Knock that over, yeah.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So
on the screen right now, in addition to the radar and the velocity radar that we're seeing, we have Greens Road and the East Tex Freeway pulled up, northeast Harris County. Folks making their way through it, definitely. But, something that we haven't mentioned is to try to give the truckers a lot of room.
Oh, yeah.
Any high-profile vehicle like that, if it's a moving truck, if it's a box truck, if it's a even a U-Haul or something like that maybe doesn't have a real experienced driver. That's where they get into a lot of trouble. Here's East Tex at Rankin Road. Now we're up closer to Bush Airport with 59 the East Tex at Will Clayton Parkway. So this whole area really is getting hit with some heavy rain right now. East Tex at FM 1960, yikes. I mean, that one, maybe it's just the perspective we're looking at it from, but that's one of the areas that's being hit hard right now, too. So obviously the people that are out there are already out there. You know it's bad when people put their flashers on. You see that? You know, when you're driving along and you see somebody driving with their flashers on, you know that they're in that little, we've all been through it, right? That little bit of that panic, like, oh my gosh, I can't stop because there's cars behind me, but at the same time, I'm getting a little bit scared because I can't really see what's happening ahead of me. Here is the Garner's Bayou area. So I think this is, you know, again, heading over there to the east and northeast side of Harris County with the camera really being battered around. Yeah, definitely getting pretty rough out there. And so this is, you know, if you're wondering who's next, it would be Crosby and Barrett and Galena Park, maybe, if it hasn't hit you yet in Galena Park, watch out for that. You're not in the warning area, Pasadena, but, you know, you're also an area that's probably going to get in on some high winds before very long as well. As far as some arrival times, if the system's moving at a, you know, it's been moving at approximately 45 miles an hour or so, you know, that gives us a look at some possible arrival times. For even down coastal areas. I mean, Freeport coming up at about 9:15 this morning, and Friendswood at about 9:30, and by 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. excuse me, we're talking about it headed down toward around Lamarck. So this will start to affect the coastal sections of Southeast Texas coming up by 10 o'clock. But it's just going to be the next hour. You know, Harris County, maybe the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It is going to improve really fast for a lot of the areas that have been hard hit. So I don't know, Sally and Melissa, I don't know if there's any chatter on social media. I don't know if there's been any, you know, any news, you know, coming from law enforcement or anything like that. Have you seen anything?
I would say
Yeah.
the biggest thing is a lot of people are talking about being without a power, and that's everywhere from east downtown in Houston up to the north side. And so a lot of people are complaining about that. And I was just trying to take a look to see if we could get an idea of those numbers. But at this time, it seems like that seems to be the biggest complaint.
Yeah, there are about 50,000 CenterPoint customers without power right now. We're taking a look, though, at a storm chaser. This video, Mike, was retweeted by meteorologist Jeff Lindner with the Harris County Flood Control District. This was posted about 20 minutes ago. This is a possible tornado near the Grand Parkway and Rayford Road in Spring. So this is just south of the Woodlands. So you can take a look here. It's about 10 seconds or so of video. And following along with this particular person here on Twitter, he says that he saw ground contact and also some debris in the area. When I checked the CenterPoint map, the majority of the 50,000 customers without power look to be around the Grand Parkway, Rayford Road area, along with the Jersey Village area, which would go along with, you know, what we saw earlier. So just around the 290 corridor, north of I-10, Highway 6 area. And then also there's a pretty big cluster of power outages just west, northwest of the Woodlands as well, like north of Tomball.
Now, just so the people in that area know, that video was taken
About 20, 25, I
Yeah.
assume about a half hour or
Yeah,
so
like
ago.
approximately a half hour ago.
Right.
So it's definitely still pretty bad in that area, but the tornado threat has passed this particular area up there around the Spring. What you're going to be looking for in Spring is just a continuation, about another hour of this real yucky, you know, kind of windy and rainy weather. But the tornado threat has now moved off to the east of that area. So we're talking about east and northeast Harris County and east and southeast Montgomery County. So from New Caney back over to Huffman, from North Houston, Aldine area, back over to around Crosby. These are the areas where, you know, we're going to have to pay attention for some damaging winds, and that's where we do have some ongoing warnings. As far as what's happening south of Houston, it's mainly just windy, rainy conditions that are moving through. We don't have any active warnings for areas south of downtown Houston right now, but let's say, you know, good morning if you're watching us from Pearland, it's about to really go downhill. I mean, that high wind is about to kick in. You're going to get some heavy rain. The wind's probably going to gust up to, you know, 40 miles an hour, and the Halloween decorations, like Lena said a minute ago, those Halloween decorations are going to go flying here, all along 288, from Pearland and Roche Sharon area southward to Angleton and Lake Jackson. Even though we don't have any warnings necessarily, it doesn't necessarily, take a warning to produce some high winds. And so we have 3 advisories in effect for our area right now. 1, a severe thunderstorm warning for Harris County, for the northern part of Harris County in particular, and that one is going to be expiring here momentarily. But beneath that, we also have this area here where there's a possible rotation that's going to be near Lake Houston, and that is moving off toward the east. And so areas in the path of that will be the Lake Houston communities, especially the southern part of the lake, and here along the San Jacinto River, around Crosby and Barrett. At the same time, sort of converging on that same area, is a potential rotation accompanied by high winds that's around the East Tex Freeway. Sally has some new information for us.
Yeah, the Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez just tweeting out, Mike, that he's getting reports of a possible tornado touching down around the 100 block of Airway. So that's near Airline and West Gulf Bank. No reported injuries, he says, but apparently some sort of damage reports are coming into the sheriff's office. Again, that's on Airway near Airline and West Gulf Bank. North side, north, sort of north Harris County.
Yeah, that definitely, a line blew through there, and it was one of these that we were covering, and it was like starting to show some signs of rotation, and definitely was like a little bit like, okay, this looks bad. It definitely is high winds. We're not sure if it's a rotation on the ground. And sometimes these really, these gusts of really high wind can be associated with tornadoes, and maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But if it damages your home or business, it really doesn't matter, right? You can go in after the fact and determine whether it was rotating or straight line. But at this point, we just want to keep everybody safe. The biggest risk, eastern and northeastern Harris County. By far, that's the biggest risk area. Humble, Atascocita, Splendora up in Montgomery County. You're actually not in the warning area right now, but that's pretty dangerous up there around Splendora too. High winds for you, high winds for New Caney. Like I said, approaching Huffman and Atascocita, Kingwood, also high winds moving in there.
Oh, that tornado warning dropped, Mike.
Oh, they just dropped the tornado warning. Okay, so that's good. So
and the severe thunderstorm warning. We now only have this one right here.
So we just have that one warning that's still in effect for eastern Harris County. So this is Lake Houston right there. There's Atascocita. Here's Lake Houston, and then the San Jacinto River coming down to Highlands, Crosby, and Barrett. This is the main area of concern right now. So, what's the threat? Well, the threat is mostly high winds. I mean, obviously heavy rain and lightning too, but whether or not there's an actual rotation in there, which it looks like there is, but whether or not there is, it definitely is going to bring some high winds. So there we are. Here's a camera from the Lake Houston area that's encountering these high winds and heavy rain right now. And as you can see, we do have a lot of our friends and family out there on the roadways. You got to go over some of those bridges. That's got to be a little bit scary. The bridges going over the lake right now. So heavy rain, high winds. Folks definitely seem to be driving very slowly there. And here's another view from that area, from the northeast side of the county. And look at the trees being, we're talking about 60 plus mile per hour wind gusts, maybe 70 mile per hour wind gusts coming out of these storms briefly as it blows through. But that's enough to do some damage. And if you do, decide to leave the house and get caught out in it, it is potentially pretty hazardous. And so now, given the fact that not only do we have radar indicated rotation, but we've now had some visual, evidence of it. We've had some people posting, what looks to be a tornado on or near the ground. And even the Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez saying they're getting some reports of tornado damage. This that we just showed you a few moments ago is not live video, but this is video that was recorded about 30 minutes ago. Grand Parkway, Rayford Road. This is in the Spring area. And, as we've been telling you this morning, it's difficult to see rotations like this, or, tornadoes, because it's raining so much. It's such heavy rain in the area. Most of the time that rain, if there is a vigorous circulation, is going to get all pulled into that rotation, and it'll just become shrouded, in rain, and you won't be able to see it. So that's what's happening right now. In fact, we have, if you can come back to me on the wall here real quick. If you're watching us from Crosby, I've been talking about Crosby, Sheldon, Barrett, that area. This is the area where we do have that indication of a circulation in the atmosphere. And so there may be a tornado on the ground in this area moving toward Crosby, because this whole thing is moving from the left side of your screen to the right side, or from east to west. And what we're looking at here is a radar product that we call the velocity product. And it comes with the technology of Doppler radar, where we can tell if raindrops are moving toward the radar or away from the radar. And we have strong movement of the raindrops toward the south here, and then a little bit of a location right there moving away from the radar toward the north. And so you have what's called shear in this area, which is not always 100% ironclad indication of a tornado, but it does indicate there's a high likelihood for one. And that's what we have right now, north side of Sheldon and heading toward the Crosby area. So this is right there. We have FM 2100, Magnolia Gardens. This is the time to take cover. It's not a time to be out there sort of, we don't really need you to be a hero and get the storm chasing video for us at this point. I really just want you to stay safe in the Crosby area. This is, whether or not it's rotating or not, you get 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts, that is likely to cause some damage. This is the only warning for tornadoes that we have, but we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued for the southeast part of Harris County. So you may have heard me mention Pasadena a few minutes ago. At the time, there wasn't a warning in effect. Now there is. Technically not in the warning area is Pearland, but you're just outside of it. It's going to be just as bad. So from Deer Park in Pasadena, the city of South Houston, all the way down to Pearland, and I would even say south of Pearland, even Alvin area, all of these spots are going to be experiencing very high winds. So a severe thunderstorm warning, what it means is that you're either going to have one of three things. A tornado, which if there were a tornado, we would have a warning issued. You could have large hail. The chances of large hail are not as high here. Or you could have damaging winds above 55 miles an hour. That's the main threat with this one. So this is moving toward also places like Lamarck and the Space Center, Clear Lake area, and back over here to around Friendswood. All of these spots are going to be at risk for seeing some high winds, along with some heavy rain and lightning. So the Gulf Freeway corridor, 225, even maybe you have plans to get on 146. I wouldn't want to be on that Fred Hartman Bridge, crossing the ship channel when this thing blows through. So if you could stay home until it passes, maybe just call the boss and say, hey, look, this is not safe for me to be out driving in. If you could just give it an hour, everything is going to be so much better, by then. So this is going to shift down toward the coastline and east of Houston, but for the time being, anywhere really from downtown Houston, heading to Pearland, to Deer Park, City of South Houston, Lamarck, League City and Dickinson, Kemah and Seabrook, Morgan's Point, all of those places, you're about to get slammed with some heavy rain and wind. If you're in the Sugar Land area, it definitely is still stormy and rainy, but the severe weather threat is over. Okay, so that severe weather, that initial line of high winds has passed through. If you're watching us from Missouri City, it's about to come to an end. So I know it's probably still coming down in buckets, but that severe weather threat is coming to an end. If you're watching us from Galveston County, the severe weather threat is just beginning right now as that heavy rain moves toward an area from Friendswood down to Dickinson. And so that's one of the areas just off to the south of where the warning is located right now, but there could be one issued. So both of these areas here in the east part of Harris County and heading into northern Brazoria and northern Galveston County, that's where we're having some of the problems. Let's check out a couple of TransStar cameras or driving shots if we have them out there, because I think sometimes that's even a little bit more informative of what we need to be prepared for. So here we go. So we're looking at right now, this is that the Beltway at Wood Forest? Is that what I'm... Yeah, so this is the east side, yeah. So again, this is one of the areas that's included within the severe thunderstorm warning right now, that east side of the Beltway there. So we were talking about like the Cloverleaf area, and as you head farther south to Pasadena, high winds, heavy rain, the whole nine. In fact, you could see how quickly that water is building up on the freeway there, and as people drive through it, they may not necessarily know, how bad it's going to be getting here over the next few minutes. And we just saw an 18-wheeler pass by. So, sometimes those wind gusts, I mean, gosh, we've even seen pictures recently from other parts of the country, from the West Coast, where, a strong gust of wind can push a truck over. So here's another view of Market Street. So again, we're over there on the east side, experiencing some of the worst of it. So give me some indication of.
Yes,
Okay.
we do have a couple of problems we just want to keep in the back of everyone's mind. Obviously, when you take a look at a rainstorm and windstorm like this, you know that there are going to be delays. We do have some delays, at least at Houston's Bush Airport. We haven't heard about Intercontinental. We're looking into that right now. Right now, the word is just that there are some delays at Bush until this weather clears out. Remind you, in a few hours, it's going to be gorgeous, but just know that's going to be a problem. And then also, we are hearing that there is a shelter in place in Sheldon ISD just to make sure that those students are safe there because of the severe weather.
Sheriff Gonzalez, also to go back to what I was saying earlier, Mike, about a possible tornado in North Harris County, kind of near the Aldine area between 45 and 69. He did just tweet out again that there is reports of damage to a home there in that area. Again, this is on the 100 block of Airway. That's between near Airline and West Gulf Bank, near the Aldine area. There is EMS and Sheriff's Office units on the scene there. Hopefully everybody is okay. There are no reports of any injuries right now, but again, reports of damage to a home between 45 and 69 when the severe weather blew through that area. That area is clear of the severe storms now. Is that right, Mike? Just some rainfall in? Or
It is, yeah. What I was going to do is I wanted to back up the radar because we could probably see exactly when that when that potential tornado moved through that area. So this is now, and we can go ahead and back it up to it was around this time frame, I think. So that was about 8:45-ish when it looked like there was a rotation in the area, and we could turn on our velocity product. And it was in the Aldine area?
it's just west of Aldine,
Okay, so
closer to 45.
Yeah, so there we go. So this isn't the current radar. This is, guys, if you look at the top of your screen, I have the timestamp on there. So you could see right there at that moment, between about 8:40 and 8:50 a.m., you had this burst of lightning, and then you also had the bright greens showing up next to the red, and so that's where the rotation was taking place. And yeah, it was between Jersey Village and Aldine, just there near I-45, just off to the west of I-45. So that was then. And you'll see here just how fast, though, it moved through. And now that same system is really not producing what looks to be as much of a rotation threat anymore, but it is producing high winds, no doubt about that. So at this point, we do have a few, so many.
New severe thunderstorm warning, yeah.
Yeah, Lena Maria
Chambers.
Arango is here with us as well. So what's the newest?
So this one's for Chambers, Harris, Liberty County. That's until 10 o'clock in the morning. What we've been seeing, guys, is that these have just been shifting eastward, rapidly as the storms continue to do so. And I guess, as previously mentioned, that's kind of the good news here. The saving grace is that if you look on the tail end of this, right, things are already starting to clear up out in, the Sealy area, even in Wharton, things are starting to lighten up. But if you're to the south and east of the city, like in Galveston, League City, Angleton area, things are just getting started for you. So we're kind of in the thick of it here for the next few hours, but kind of zooming into that new severe thunderstorm warning. These all kind of overlap a little bit. Notice the tornado warning is the smallest polygon in terms of size, but we do have this new tornado or severe thunderstorm warning rather in effect, and that includes, Channelview area, Baytown area, along I-10 heading eastward toward Louisiana, and kind of overlaps a little bit with the one just to the south that Mike was just talking about. So we do certainly still have, the threat out there for those strong winds, heavy rain, not seeing any hail indicated on radar, but can't rule out maybe some smaller hail. But for the most part, it really is just the heavy rainfall, the damaging winds associated with this, and the possibility for a brief isolated tornado. But nonetheless, as we've been mentioning all morning long, rotation or not, straight line winds can certainly do damage. If you can kind of wait this out at home or where you are, that is certainly the best course of action right now, because it won't be much longer before we're kind of in the clear, so to speak.
Yeah, it's moving at 40 miles an hour at least.
Right.
So, if you just sort of time that out, you give it another hour, And the worst of the weather now is going to be over Galveston County, Chambers County, Galveston Bay, and then Katy and Sugar Land and Tomball and a lot of the spots that were hard hit earlier are just going to be experiencing maybe, light rain and cooler. That'll be cooler also.
Right.
So, but, this is, you don't really want to mess with this. This is the time of the morning when people are usually wrapping up, what they needed to do. The kids are kind of off at school and, maybe you've made it to work or you're on your way to work or, maybe you're just running some errands for the day. If it's not anything that's an emergency that you have to be out there, it's just best to stay put until this thing passes because we're going to have some great weather later on today. We did hear, Melissa and Sally told us a few minutes ago that the Sheldon ISD, I think it was, had a shelter in place put in. They don't want the kids out there in this as it's just getting ready to plow through their area. And that goes the same, I assume for a lot of you, like the Clear Creek ISD. If you've already sent your kids off to school, just know that they're not going to be out there. They're not going to be having PE, this morning or anything. It's just they have to. Everybody is going to need to stay inside. I just got a text from my wife because my wife works at a preschool, a church and a preschool, and they're doing carpool right now. Like the parents are dropping off their kids, and all the teachers are out there with umbrellas and just trying to get the kids out of the car. And she's in one of the areas where it's not severe right now, but it's definitely not fun. So that's going to be happening all over the Houston area.
I mean, you make a good point, though, Mike. We hear nothing from inside the studio.
Yeah, you would think when this passed over,
I think there's a TranStar.
Yeah, okay, so we have another TranStar view. Sometimes, these views of the roadways are equally as useful as what we're seeing. So Gulf Freeway at El Dorado. So, this is a system that is, like we said, it's making its way now into southeast Harris County, and it's going to be moving into Galveston County shortly. So that's an area right now, what we're looking at is an area that's under a severe thunderstorm warning. So what we're talking about with a severe thunderstorm is that we're looking for those winds to gust 60 miles an hour or higher, accompanied by lots of lightning and heavy rain as well. So Gulf Freeway is not a place you want to be right now. And I just want to give you just a little warning. If you're watching us from Webster or League City or Dickinson or Kemah or any of those spots, and you say, well, it's really not that bad right now, it's moving in fast. So if you are, let's say you're hitting the road and you're in Dickinson or Texas City and you have to drive into Houston, it is best to delay that trip because you're on the Gulf Freeway. You are going to get stuck in it, and it is going to be nasty for a while between Dickinson and downtown Houston, or between the Space Center and downtown Houston. Not a good place to drive. Now, if you're watching us from Katy or Richmond, Rosenberg, Cypress, it definitely is still a little bit ugly there weather-wise, but the dangerous weather has passed. I mean, you'll want to take it slow on the roadways, obviously, and definitely, be mindful of the fact that there may be some traffic signals out, things like that happen.
The tornado warning has now been dropped. We're now just down to these two severe thunderstorm warnings at this point.
Good. That's definitely good news. The CenterPoint Energy outage tracker is showing 51,000 customers without power in the CenterPoint area right now, and so many of them from Northwest Harris County and from North Harris County, but we now have new power outages that just popped up in Pasadena, and then also around Edgebrook, City of South Houston, and even like over around Sunnyside and the Greater Third Ward area. I mean, a lot of these spots are seeing power outages now, and it's funny because you can see right as the line hits, that's boom, 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 boom when you start seeing the power go out.
Yeah, right, where the severe thunderstorm warnings are still up for is where a lot of those new power outages are starting to kind of pop up as the storms march on through. Yeah,
so and Melissa and Sally, this is, the emphasis is going to be shifting here, for about one more hour. Give it, another 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes. It's going to be shifting to Galveston County, to southeast and eastern Harris County, Chambers and Liberty, and then the weather is going to gradually get better for Fort Bend and for, the western part of Harris County.
And it's amazing when you see how much red is on the map that we haven't gotten a lot of reports of street flooding. I will say that Jeff Lindner, the meteorologist for Harris County Flood Control, did just tweet out, Mike, that there's heavy rain at Caney Creek at FM 2090. That's near Grangerland, and street flooding is possible there.
Okay.
Yes, and I do, I just want to make sure if you were heading out, just to take a look and make sure you know what's happening on the roadways, because it is slow go and on almost every highway, and you can see why, because there is a lot of water out there. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you see even some people have their flashers on, which is always a really good idea. I'm seeing that on quite a few of these vehicles, just to make sure that everybody else can see you, because it's coming down heavy enough, Mike. I'm sure it's very difficult to see some of the cars out there, especially when those trucks are just kicking up that water on you.
Yep, and if you get too close to one of those big rigs and you just get a sudden, unexpected gust coming through, there's only so much that the driver can do, doing their best to stay in their lane. You can't even see the lane, you can't even see the lane, first of all, and then you get a wind gust, and if there's a car that's too close by, we all just have to be extra courteous, or the best thing to do would be to just stay off the road till this passes. This is Laporte Freeway. Out on the east side. So 225 Laporte Freeway, that's also going to be one of the spots that's getting hit pretty hard. Our friend Lena DeFlorius is in the Galleria area, and she is out in the thick of it, of course, staying safe. So Lena, right now, believe it or not, you're in an area that's seeing improving weather.
Yeah, you know what? I will say this came down fast and furious. So I'm at Richmond and Kirby. I just want to show you a little bit of the water that's been pooling here. It started just a little bit of a sprinkle, and then not a minute later, it was pouring to the point where I just pulled over because I just didn't feel like it was safe to be on the roadways. And I saw a lot of people doing the same. So you can see a lot of the pooling that's happening. The wind was kicking up like crazy. The rain was going at a sideways slant. I'm sure there's a meteorological term for it, but it was, really moving, and it was just blowing. And now I'm seeing a lot of lightning too as well. And then a lot of people were pulling over. I did the same just because it just did not feel safe. I started hydroplaning at one point because it only takes a little bit of water to make that happen. And now you're hearing the thunder as well. So it kind of comes in waves where it's a downpour, and then it'll slow just a little bit. Let me show you some of the roadway here. I know it's starting to come down really again. And then, there goes my umbrella because it's the wind. Oh. Okay, there's your idea. I was kind of off-centering myself so you could get an idea of how much the wind can kick up, and it's just that fast too. Now you had mentioned too, I'm going to try to get you a little bit of the intersection there because you were talking about power outages. I just want to remind people, if you are on the road, you get caught and there's a light out, you have to treat that as a four-way stop, meaning everyone has to come to a stop. One car per lane, east-west, goes, and then one car north-south from each lane goes. You have to switch off. But if you can stay off the roadway, I certainly would. I just pulled over just because I didn't feel like it was safe enough to keep moving. And I would say a lot of people did the same. And if you ever feel that way, it's just better to pull over. It's better to be just a couple minutes late rather than driving where you can't see. You feel your car being pushed around by the wind. You kind of saw with my umbrella how windy it gets. And those gusts just kick up and there's no way to really prepare for it,
Hey, Lena, it's getting a little bit cooler out there too, I imagine, right? Chillier?
Oh, it is. Thank you. I didn't even notice that because I was so focused on, the rain and the wind and how much water there was. But yeah, it is definitely cooler. And it's, even though it's wet outside, it's a dry air, meaning that I'm not feeling the humidity that we felt this morning. So it does sound weird that it is so wet out here. But yeah, it's definitely cooler and the air is not humid. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh, no.
With the wind, I just kind of want to show you the glamour of TV news, right? But I did want to kind of give you an idea, and then you can see a little bit, I know it's tough, but how the rain will just kind of kick up and go in waves where it's just going side to side instead of up and down.
Yeah, I think John Dawson has one of those big Fox 26 golf umbrellas back by his desk somewhere. So if you need... Yeah, you need a nice big Fox 26. So we do have Lena. You can't see it, but behind me, Lena Maria just pulled up the temperatures. So not just the radar, but the temperatures in the 60s, in the low 60s, and it's windy and it's rainy. Before we take a break, I just want to remind you to download the Fox 26 weather app. So I'm just looking at mine right now. I see the tornado watch. I see a special weather statement telling me that even though our area is not under a warning, there still is heavy rain and high winds in the area, as we just saw. And of course, I can click on the radar and get all of my local radar, big picture, close up, whatever I need. Head to the App Store and just search Fox 26 weather. We're going to take a little break. We'll be back right after this.